Let's jump right into this explainer because for hundreds of millions of years, there has been this epic, silent drama unfolding right under our boots. It is a story of survival, a massive underground partnership, and invisible labor that has literally shaped our planet. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on this monumental, invisible world beneath our feet and map out a subterranean life support system that scientists are only just now fully bringing to light. If I asked you to picture the largest biological infrastructure on Earth, what comes to mind? You'd probably look up, right? Maybe picture giant redwood forests or even the sprawling concrete grids of human cities. But the real answer, it's actually hidden entirely out of sight, buried deep in the dirt. So, meet the absolute star of our underground drama, arbuscular mycorrhizal, or AM fungi. You can basically think of them as a massive, living, biological internet. They physically thread their way through the soil, forming this incredibly intimate connection with the roots of the vast majority of land plants. It's a true partnership. Let's start with Section 1, 450 million year partners, because this relationship goes way, way back. To really grasp the scale of this epic romance, we have to rewind over 450 million years. Back then, the oceans were absolutely teeming with life, but the land? It was just a harsh, dead, rocky frontier. Plants actually couldn't have conquered the land on their own. They just didn't have the root systems to break down rock and get nutrients. They had to rely on fungi acting as their underground mining crew. Without this massive dramatic leap, the green earth we know and love today simply wouldn't exist. So how does it work? Well, this ancient alliance is built on a flawless, half-billion-year-old trade agreement. The plants are the energy producers. They use their leaves like little solar panels to capture sunlight and fix carbon, which they essentially use to pay the fungi. In exchange, the fungi act as miners, extracting hard-to-reach water and vital nutrients from deep down in the soil and delivering them directly to the plant's roots. It is a completely perfect biological economy. Which brings us to Section 2, giant infrastructure wrapping Earth. For the longest time, we just couldn't grasp the true physical size of this network. But researchers recently compiled over 16,000 soil cores to build our first global map. And the scale is, well, it's mind-blowing. 110 quadrillion kilometers. That is the estimated total length of living AM fungal mycelium weaving through Earth's topsoil right at this very moment. Because a number like 110 quadrillion just breaks the human brain, let's anchor that for a second. If you took all those microscopic underground fungal threads and lined them up end to end, the length equals the distance from the Earth all the way to the Sun, multiplied by 735 million. It's literally an astronomical structure just hiding right there in the mud. And this fungal economy isn't just physically huge, it is a heavyweight champion in the global carbon cycle. Every single year, plants pump about 1 billion tons of carbon down into this fungal network. That's the equivalent of 4 billion tons of CO2, meaning it effectively offsets roughly 11% of all global human emissions. Plus, the fungi themselves act as a massive carbon sink, holding around 300 million tons of carbon just in their biomass. Now for Section 3, unexpected carbon vaults. Get ready because here comes a major plot twist. This twist completely flips how we think about ecological conservation. If someone asked you where the most intense biological networks are, you'd probably guess the Amazon rainforest, right? Makes sense. But the reality is completely different. A massive 40% of the entire global AM fungal network is actually concentrated under grasslands. We're talking prairies, steppes, and savannas. That finding builds an entirely new map of the world for us. Some of the highest density fungal hotspots on Earth are in places you might never expect. We're talking about the Sud wetlands in South Sudan, the subtropical Everglades in Florida, and the vast, sweeping, high-altitude grasslands of the Tibetan Plateau. These spots are the true hidden powerhouses of our underground carbon economy. And the absolute beauty of this grassland system is its sheer resilience. Because the carbon is locked safely deep underground within the fungi, these ecosystems can survive incredible trauma. A massive surface wildfire can sweep through, or a brutal drought can hit. But that underground vault, it remains totally intact. It really proves that judging an ecosystem's value solely by the trees you can see above ground is a huge mistake. But sadly, every good drama has a conflict. Section 4, looming crisis from agriculture. This 450 million-year-old trade agreement is now facing a severe modern threat, and it's coming from the very species that finally managed to map it, us. Researchers have found that our intensive agricultural practices have essentially slashed the density of our underground life support system in half. The very areas where we grow our food are rapidly becoming biological dead zones just below the surface. We are accidentally destroying this ancient partnership, and we're doing it in 3 devastating steps. First, deep tilling physically rips apart that delicate fungal infrastructure. Second, when we dump massive amounts of artificial fertilizers on crops, the plants are like, hey, I don't need to pay the fungi for nutrients anymore, causing the ancient trade agreement to collapse. And third, applying chemical fungicides quite literally poisons the fungal community that's left over. And the irony here is just absolutely devastating. When we destroy these fungi, our crops actually lose their natural stress tolerance, and the soil structure degrades. So what happens? Farmers are forced to buy and apply even more chemicals to fix the problem they just created. It kicks off this vicious, completely unsustainable cycle of dependency. We are literally cutting off our own invisible life support. Now, quick pause for a reality check, because I want to clarify something super important. You might have heard of the Wood Wide Web, this idea that trees actively talk to each other or consciously send warning signals through the fungal network. While the trade of carbon and nutrients is hard, proven scientific fact, the researchers in this study are very quick to note that claims about trees deliberately communicating or intentionally sharing resources are still heavily debated. We really have to be careful not to romanticize it beyond the science, mostly because, let's face it, the actual science is already miraculous enough. Finally, let's wrap up with Section 5, Life Support System Underfoot. So what's the takeaway here? Well, the very first step to fixing this crisis is exactly what these researchers have started doing, mapping and actually understanding this invisible world. As Professor Katie Field perfectly points out, conserving our AM fungi isn't just about saving some neat biological quirk. It is the literal key to creating sustainable farming, securing our future food supply, and actively fighting climate change. For 450 million years, this invisible underground drama is exactly what allowed life to survive and thrive on land. So I'll leave you with this question. If we blindly break the very foundation of that ancient economy, what kind of future are we really farming for ourselves? Definitely something to think about the next time you walk across a simple patch of grass.